welcome to the TCS New York City Marathon Training Panel Series with our panel of experts today on injury prevention and more. Today's is the third in a 5-part series of training panels to help get you ready for the 2023 TCS New York City Marathon. So today our experts will be helping you continue your training for the marathon and with a focus on injury prevention. Just some logistical information before we get started with the question and answers. If you did not request but do need an assistive listening device, you can see my colleagues right there at the pickup and they can assist you with that. We do have accessible and gender neutral restrooms right behind us around the corner. And closed captioning will be provided in the recording that's going to be available on the New York Roadrunners YouTube page at a later time this evening. Please do note that closed captions are auto-generated. And today's panel is being live streamed on our New York Roadrunners YouTube page as well as the Facebook page. So a big welcome to all of you here in person. I see some familiar faces from our last couple of panels, and also to all of you joining us online from, I know by now, around the globe. And just want to let you know that we will take questions from the audience, from the folks here in person, and we will also take questions from the audience online. We do have Coach Steve monitoring the live stream chats on Facebook and YouTube, so please feel free to add any relevant questions there. And for the folks who are here in person, we will honor you being here in person and take your questions first when we get to Q&A later. So to begin, my name is Saman Wakad. I am the Diversity, Equity, and Social Responsibility Specialist for New York Roadrunners. I will be your host tonight for this expert panel. I am not the expert, I'm just here to ask the questions. For those with low vision or those who might be blind, whether there are folks here in person in the audience, those watching the live stream, or those watching the recording at a later time, I do want to provide a brief description. I am a South Asian woman wearing a navy blue tech t-shirt and jacket with the New York Roadrunners and New Balance logos on the front. I'm wearing a brown or bronze colored headscarf and glasses. And now we will move on to the experts. To my left, we have Gemma Ward. Gemma is running the 2023 TCS New York City Marathon, which I know for you all is the most important information. Gemma is an RRCA certified coach with a lifelong passion for running. Gemma loves coaching and has coached runners of all ages with varying levels of experience. She loves seeing athletes achieve their goals and loves sharing her passion for the sport. She loves running anything from short distances on the track to the quieter trails and cross-country events to loud road races. Running has been a way to see the world as she's completed races and events across the globe. She's an experienced marathoner whose list of races and goals grows exponentially every year. And as I said again, she will be running the 2023 TCS New York City Marathon.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I am a white woman with dark-ish blonde hair. I am wearing a navy blue coach's shirt with the New Balance logo and the coach's logo, and I am wearing glasses.
Thank you, Gemma. And to Gemma's left, we have Dr. Shelby Harris. Dr. Shelby is board certified in behavioral sleep medicine by the American Academy of Sleep Medicine and treats a wide variety of sleep disorders, which include insomnia, nightmares, circadian rhythm disorders, narcolepsy, apnea treatment, noncompliance, all of these using evidence-based non-pharmacological treatments. Before going into private practice, Dr. Harris was the longstanding director of the Behavioral Sleep Medicine Program at the Sleep-Wake Disorders Center at Montefiore Medical Center. Dr. Shelby Harris currently is training for the Chicago Marathon and ran Berlin last year.
And I'm doing New York.
And she's doing New York. Look at that.
So I am a white woman, and thank you for having me, first of all. I'm a white woman wearing a black blazer, white tank top, and I have long, dark blonde, probably more brunette hair, and clear glasses.
Thank you, Dr. Shelby. And to Dr. Shelby's left, we have Brent Smith. Brent earned his doctorate in physical therapy from Long Island University in Brooklyn in 2015. He has worked at the Hospital for Special Surgery, so you may hear us refer to it as HSS throughout the evening. He has worked at HSS since 2010 and is currently an advanced clinician in the acute care department, covering both pediatric and adult patient populations. His love of running began while attending his graduate studies when he ran his first half marathon, the 2014 New York Roadrunners Brooklyn Half. Many half marathons later, he participated in his first full marathon in 2019, running the New York City Marathon. He is currently training for Chicago and also ran the Berlin Marathon last year.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here. I am a white male. I have no hair up top, although it's a little stubbly today. A beard, glasses, HSS shirt. I think it's gray, but I have issues with color differentiation, so if it's not gray, feel free to tell me if it's a different color.
It looks pretty gray to me, and I just want to point out we all are wearing glasses today. I love that the nerdy look has been in the last few years. So folks, this is one of our favorite questions and a shocking answer usually. How many weeks until the marathon? Okay, I have 6. Anybody else? Anyone else know how many weeks until the marathon? It is 6 weeks. That is the correct answer. It's not to scare anybody. We just want to make sure we're all on the same page here. So we are 6 weeks out from the 2023 TCS New York City Marathon. So we're going to start with talking briefly about what is the most important thing a runner should be thinking about right now to prepare. And we're going to have our experts share from their area of expertise. So Gemma, we will start with you. Where should runners be right now in terms of mileage and training?
Thank you. This is a really great question, one that doesn't have 100% answer. There's no definitive answer to this. All of us are training for different races. Well, we're all running the marathon, the TCS New York City Marathon, but we're all running it differently. This could be our first time running the marathon. This could be our 10th time. So your week mileage, your weekend mileage is going to be varying. So some of us may be hitting 12 miles this weekend. Some of us may be hitting 14 miles. So I think it's really important to follow your plan, stick to your plan, and you're about to get to the meaty section. So your miles, your weekly mileage, your long run mileage is about to increase over the next 2 to 3 weeks before it tapers back down. So yeah, to answer the question, everyone is going to be at a slightly different point of that training.
Okay, great. So I think that probably is going to be comforting for some people, especially if they're comparing themselves to others that are training for the marathon. Next, Dr. Shelby. How does sleep play into training for the marathon? We've always been told that sleep helps you recover, but talk to us about what's going on when we sleep, especially during these high mileage weeks.
Yeah, I mean, this is the time to really start to focus on just improving your sleep quality and quantity, especially like people often ask me about, and we'll talk about this, like race week. This is the time to start really thinking about it, because as you're increasing the mileage, and possibly for some people they're doing speed workouts plus longer mileage, you have to be careful with sleep, because sleep is really where you repair your muscles. So when you're doing these longer miles or speed workouts, you're literally tearing your muscle fibers. So that when you sleep, especially deep sleep, that you get most of your deep sleep the first third of the night, and then you cycle throughout the night. But that's when your body's repairing itself mostly. So you want to really work on getting enough sleep, getting that deep sleep as much as you can. So limiting alcohol, limiting caffeine. I mean, I'm not saying avoid it altogether, but just try to get as many good solid nights as possible. And also, if napping doesn't bother you and it doesn't impact your sleep at night, take a nap here and there. A short 20, 30-minute nap after a hard workout's really going to help with that recovery.
So if in case you were wondering why we're talking about sleep, crucial to injury prevention. And next we'll move on to Brent. Brent talked to us about what kind of workouts, stretching, or strength training should runners be doing these next 6 weeks to avoid injury.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing I have to say is you're only 6 weeks out, right? So you really shouldn't be adding anything too new. It could risk making you too sore. You could cause an injury that way. But number one, you should be doing or working on your dynamic warm-ups before every run. It's very important to prevent injury. A lot of us runners like to only run, and that's it, and that's not enough. You should be weight training. It doesn't mean you have to go to the gym and lift heavy weights. It can be body weight resistance, your TheraBands, your yoga, your Pilates, whatever it is, right? So maintain that. You are in marathon training season, though, so you should not be lifting heavy. It should be light maintenance weights. And then that static stretching, after every run, not just the long runs, is going to be super important to keep those muscles nice, pliable, elongated to help reduce risk of injury.
Thank you, Brent. So now that we've talked a little briefly about where we should be or where we are, let's talk about where we're going in the next 6 weeks. So Brent, we'll start with you this time. Some runners here, those watching online live or those watching the recording at a later time, might very well be injured. Some might be injured a little bit, some might be injured a little bit more. So talk to us about when a runner should be seeing a physical therapist and how should they be adjusting their training if they're injured?
Sure. If we're going to talk about the word injury, if there's a true injury, a diagnosis you've received from a doctor or somebody, then you definitely need to be working with a professional, a physical therapist, a coach, a doctor to get you healthy to the course. For most of us, and hopefully this isn't too many people in here, it's the word pain, right? So let's define pain. Pain is any sensation that when you're running, it doesn't decrease or it gets worse and it changes your gait pattern. So if you're experiencing pain, that's when we have to do the thing that none of us want to do. We've got to stop, okay? Doesn't mean you can't run the race. What's most important is that you get to the start line healthy so then you can hopefully finish the race. We can probably all tell you stories about people that push, thought they were okay because they got in the middles, and then they get to the race and they tank and they bail, okay? When you should see a PT, as soon as possible. We're 6 weeks out, right? So if you're experiencing anything that's slowing you, altering your gait, see a professional immediately so we can try to do what we can do to get you healthy to the start line. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing, Brent. And I want to say that when you talked about pain and, that making that not so fun decision of stopping running, I work with a lot of folks at New York Roadrunners who run, but they're like incredible runners. I'm so inspired by them. But what I have seen is that folks will actually stop running and they will go and seek medical help to diagnose if they need to actually stop running, if they need to take other preventative measures. But I think that's so crucial.
Well, and even on the race day itself, so many runners won't stop and go to the medical tent because they think the doctors are going to pull you out of the race. That's the very last thing they're going to do. They want you to finish. But you can get to that medical tent. A lot of times there's PTs in there. They can work with you a little bit. A lot of times it's just a cramp or something, but they can hopefully help you get back on the course. So don't hesitate to go to the medical tent. We're not going to just say, you're done.
And there's medical tents throughout the course. So next, Gemma, talk to us about, so a lot of runners will be hitting their highest mileage in the next couple of weeks, right? 18 or 20 miles. What are the best ways to prepare for this distance?
Yeah, another really important question we have here. So prioritizing your running, prioritizing your long run. So if your traditional long run is on a Saturday morning, Friday night, doing simple things like laying out what you're going to wear, looking at the weather, changing it. Is it a tank? Is it a long sleeve? Planning out the basic things. There's only so many things you can control with your long runs and with race day. So controlling things like that. Controlling your route. So planning where you're going to run. Map it out so you know where you're going. You're not heading out the door blind to where you could be going. So if you've got 18 miles, plan out 18 miles. Is that 9 out, 9 back, etc. So thinking about that. Are you running with a group? Are you running alone? How are you going to do this? Planning all of these things out the week of your long runs. It makes it a lot easier to get up and get out of that front door and start running. Also thinking about the fuel, the nutrition you're going to need on your long run. These are your dress rehearsals for the marathon on November 5. So these runs you're really wanting to practice what you're going to do on race day. So when are you eating? When are you taking hydration? What are you wearing? All of these things that seem really obvious, it's about practicing them. Nothing new on race day, so start practicing on these long runs and prioritizing the long run. So maybe canceling some of your social plans or taking it a little bit easier before these long runs. Yeah.
Canceling your social plans for the time being. once people come and cheer for you, then you can make those social plans again. Dr. Shelby, many in the room may not be getting quality sleep. People don't get quality sleep in general, but especially since they're training for the marathon. What are some reasons for this, and how can folks improve the sleep that they are getting?
So there's a lot of reasons for poor quality sleep. So you could get a great quantity, 8, 9 hours a night, but if the quality isn't good, it's just not going to be as restorative, and it's not going to help with injury prevention, as we're talking about. So there are basic things that we always start with just to make sure that your quality of your sleep is better. So caffeine is the big one. So a lot of people, I hear this almost every single day, is that, but I don't have trouble falling asleep with caffeine. I'm fine. I can fall asleep. Well, number one, I wonder, are you getting enough sleep routinely? That's my first question. And then second is that caffeine doesn't just impact the falling asleep. It actually impacts the depth of the sleep you have and can cause more awakenings for some people as well without you realizing it. Alcohol is another big one. So really try to limit alcohol. It's not funny. We're talking about social plans. So really think about limiting alcohol, and then especially limiting it within 3 hours of going to bed. The blue lights, right? How many of us are like on our phones and then fall asleep with your phone in your hand, scrolling New York City Marathon course strategies? So, you're falling asleep with that stuff. The blue light really can impact not just falling asleep, but the quality of the sleep that you're getting as well. But then there's other things that we think about. There was this great paper that came out this week that's looking at timing of your sleep. So if you're all over the place with your timing, I get it. Some people are working shifts, some people have young kids, it happens. But if you're all over the place with the timing and not routinely consistent, that's going to impact the quality. And then finally, we look at other things, medications that you might be taking, headache medications that have caffeine in it, snoring. There's other things, too, that you want to think about medically that might be getting in the way.
So folks, that course strategy video is still going to be there in the morning, if that's what you're looking at late at night.
But you're not going to convince yourself that in the middle of the night. So
those reels and those TikTok videos will be there too. Dr. Shelby, what is the general, for folks who might not know, what is the general rule of thumb when it comes to consuming caffeine, and at what point should folks kind of be mindful of stopping that? Great question.
So general rule of thumb is about 8 hours before bed to really stop caffeine. I hate to say it, the older you get, it takes longer. So sometimes for older adults, I might say someone over the age of 65, I might say to limit it about 12 hours before bed.
Got it, thank you. And then another follow-up question. Folks may not realize they're not getting great quality of sleep, right? Maybe they just don't feel that great. What are some hacks or tips that they can use to kind of track the quality of their sleep?
Great. So I think the first thing is you just have to, you're your own kind of expert on how you feel. So if you're waking up in the morning, I hear a lot that when people get up in the morning, they'll say, oh, I'm so groggy right when I get up. Don't use right when you get up as the judgment as to how your sleep is. Give yourself like 30, 45 minutes. If you're still feeling like you're really dragging, your sleep's not restorative, that's probably a sign that either you're not getting enough sleep or the quality is off. You can use things like the Whoop, the Oura Ring. Those are good overall, but they're not great for telling you what stage of sleep you're in. I think they're good for giving you the amount of sleep you're getting, and if your sleep is more broken than you think you are. So you can use that, but really, you should be your own judge. And if you're excessively sleepy during the day, you can go online and get something called the Epworth Sleepiness Scale, which is a free scale, and you can figure out if you have excessive sleepiness as well during the day that you might want to talk with a doctor about.
Okay, great. You learn something new every day. And if you didn't take notes, you can go back and watch this video at a later time. So moving on to the next question, let's get to race week. Since we're 6 weeks out from the New York City Marathon, that means in about 5 weeks, we'll be at race week. So race week can be a very nervous time for athletes. I'm sure it actually is a very nervous time for most athletes. Let's take a few minutes and talk about how runners can get the most out of race week, because we're here to help everyone prepare well for the 2023 TCS New York City Marathon. This time we'll start with you, Dr. Shelby. Should runners be adjusting their sleep closer to the race? Should they be sleeping more race week or race nights? And how does one actually sleep with the nerves and excitement?
So the adjusting your sleep is a tricky one. So a lot of times when people are running more mileage leading up to, you might want more sleep, like we were talking about, maybe taking a nap, as long as it's not impacting the sleep that you're getting at night. That's totally fine. This is the time really to think about things that help you with stress reduction. I'm a huge proponent of meditation. I've been saying all the time, the best time to start meditating was yesterday, because it takes time to build up. So this is a great time to really work on, get one of the apps. You don't need an app to do fancy or to do meditation. Start with 1 minute, 2 minutes, and it's just about refocusing your brain. Just refocus on whatever the meditation you're doing is, deep breathing. It doesn't matter. And if you practice it now, it's something that you can help have in your pocket for when race week comes up. Because if your brain is, we call it like a busy brain, if that's happening during race week, if you've been practicing meditation now, it will help you to let go of some of that. Muscle relaxation exercises are great. Deep breathing exercises are all wonderful. And the other thing that I stress to people is, because many of us in the room here are local, there's so many out there that are not local who are flying in. So think about jet lag strategies, right? Are you just going to kind of grin and bear it and just kind of be in a different time zone when you're running the marathon, essentially? Or are you going to think about maybe limiting alcohol, caffeine, shifting your sleep schedule in advance? There's a great app out there called Time Shifter, which is one that I often recommend to people, that you put in your flights, and it will tell you when to consume caffeine, when you might want to shift your sleep schedule, so that it makes the jet lag a little bit less significant for race day. So there's a lot of different strategies you can try depending upon where you're coming from. And also race night jitters. So that night, don't stress about the night before. Adrenaline will get you through. I don't usually sleep well the night before a race. So think about the week before. It's really about the week before. You're going to store it up, try to get as much sleep as you can. But the night before, do not stress about it. Stressing about it's only going to make you lose more sleep. It's not worth it.
Think about the 50,000 runners that have the same nerves as you. And then also think about the New York Roadrunners employees, staff, volunteers who have the similar nerves as you. And the app that you mentioned, it's Time Shifter?
Time Shifter.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't work for them or anything. It's just a really great app that I recommend all the time.
Okay, so for those folks, because I know we have folks join us from across the states and across the world. If you're traveling here for the New York City Marathon, then that's an app that you can download, Time Shifter, and hopefully it's useful for you. So moving on to Brent, what are the best ways that a runner can have, I don't even know if this is the right term, fresh legs? Race day, how do you get fresh legs? Given the mileage and the intensity, that being lower than normal, as in the higher mileage will be the next couple weeks, and then there will be lower mileage. Talk to us about getting fresh pair of legs.
Yeah, sure. And, let's expand on it, because the anxiety from the race week isn't just race week. It's the entire taper period, right? So right now we're in our taper phase, and I'm not as crazy as I was in my first marathon. I'm feeling okay. So fresh legs, the nice thing for tapering is you're inherently running less miles, so your legs get fresher if you follow the training plan, right? Because you've built up your fitness to that point. You do your last long run, whatever that is, and then you decrease the miles. So your body has time to recover. You're sleeping well. You're on top of your nutrition. That's not my expertise, but we all know you've got to have proper nutrition for running. And then anything else you might do to help with that relaxation, whether that's hot baths, stretching, foam rolling. My big thing for this training cycle is I finally bought myself one of those metal muscle scrapers. Mine's a sidekick, right? Sidekick. It looks like a Klingon weapon. And I've wrecked my thighs with it, and I feel the best I've ever felt for marathon training. But that's just specific for me. But it's about finding whatever that thing is that helps you recover, helps you rest, helps you sleep. That'd be my biggest tips.
Okay, thank you. So learned a new term today. Fresh legs?
Fresh
Race
legs.
week.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So Gemma, what should a runner's mileage look like race week? And with a mix of expo, so for those folks who don't know, we have 3 days of expo, the day before the marathon, and it is at the Javits Center. So folks may be coming to the expo to pick up their bibs, obviously, look around at the vendors and the other stations that we have there, possibly traveling to New York City from across the country, around the world. How should runners be looking at their training that week as well?
Again, that's a really great question. Everyone's taper is going to look slightly different depending on the mileage that you have. A rough gauge is 30% of what you were doing 2 weeks out, 50% race week. A taper doesn't mean that you stop running. So you're not going to get to that final week and not run. You're still going to be running. You're not going to be increasing your mileage. You're not going to be adding any wild speed work, even though you may be feeling great. You're going to be keeping it nice and relaxed. Everything is just keeping everything moving, relaxed. You may be feeling great because you've had some great sleep. Please don't go out and try complete workouts that maybe you've missed. Please don't go walk around New York City and walk every avenue. Try keep off your legs when you can. Keep them moving for the runs, but don't go to the expo every single day from opening to closing. Enjoy it. Enjoy that time that you have. Trust your training, trust your plan, trust your coach, and
Okay, you can wear your medal after you run the marathon, and then you can walk around New York City and have random strangers congratulate you, which I really want to congratulate every single person, but sometimes I feel awkward, like, why is this random person congratulating me? So we're gonna take questions from the audience. Just wanna remind you all in just a few minutes. I'm gonna go through my last set of questions here for the folks that are online. Whether you're watching on the YouTube page or the New York Roadrunners Facebook page, Coach Steve is monitoring the chat. So if you have questions regarding injury prevention specifically, and sleep as well, and training and mileage, please feel free to share those questions in the chat, and we'll get to those in just a few minutes. So we're going to talk about sort of a last final piece of advice. I mean, definitely we'll take questions from the audience, but for those running this year's TCS New York City Marathon, let's talk about a final piece of advice. But before we get to that, I want to ask the audience, I know there's some familiar faces here, how many folks are running this is going to be their first marathon? How many folks in the audience? Okay, several folks. And how many folks have run, this is going to be your second marathon? Okay, a few. Third? Fourth? Fifth? More than 5? Wow, we have quite the nice mix of folks here. And I love that folks are here after running a few marathons because you can always learn more, right? Okay, so let's move on to these questions. Gemma, share with us any advice for our first-time marathon runners.
My biggest piece of advice for this marathon is have fun, enjoy it. You only get one first marathon, and soak it up right from the beginning. That's from waking up in the morning, and enjoy the whole day, enjoy the whole experience, and wear your medal. Wear it everywhere. Don't take it off.
Definitely the entire weekend, and Monday counts as the weekend too, so definitely wear your marathon medal for 2 days.
Even the next week, and carry it to work, take it with you wherever you go, and remind people that you ran the TCS New York City Marathon.
Isn't it 1% of the population or the US population has run a marathon, right? Something like that? That's quite an accomplishment. You're better than the other 99% of the people. So, Dr. Shelby, share with us any advice on making sure that sleep and recovery, people are getting adequate sleep and recovery.
Yeah, so I've tried to make a case for thinking about sleep now, right? Leading up, building that kind of good sleep base leading up to it. But then just think about after the marathon, right? We're talking about we have a lot of first timers here, so if you love it and you want to do another one, you want to make sure you keep yourself nice and healthy. And the best thing to do is to try in the week after the race, really prioritize your sleep as much as you can. Really try to have a good amount. I'm not a nutritionist, but to try and have some protein, especially in the evening, to really help with that muscle repair during your sleep. And know that it can be, like I said, the night before the marathon can be hard to sleep. It can also be challenging for a lot of people the night after the marathon to sleep. You might find that if you are someone who is prone to restless leg syndrome, I am, you might find your legs just don't want to stay still so much. You might have some more muscle cramping. You can try some magnesium. If your doctor's okay with it, just try. Massages can be great during that week to help with sleep, especially in those leg cramps. So really try to prioritize sleep, but know the night after might be a little bit of a challenge.
It's great that we're talking about the 6 weeks out rate right? Because people, if they have not been prioritizing their sleep, then they can start today.
There's still hope, yes,
Yeah,
for
there's
sure.
still hope. And I know that Dr. Shelby and Brent both mentioned nutrition. So for those folks who may not have been here, our very first panel for this training series was on nutrition. You can go to our YouTube page, the New York Roadrunners YouTube page, and you can find that training panel video. I believe it was in July, some date in July. So you can find more information on nutrition from that panel. And Brent, last but not least, any advice on staying injury-free and ready to race on November 5th?
Yeah, sure. I think the basic 3 is listen to your body, run happy, perform a dynamic warm-up before every run, right? I mean, these next 3 weeks they're going to be tough. This is when you start to ramp up the miles. This is when you really start to fatigue. This is when you really shouldn't be doing anything else in life but focusing on the training. So if you really work on warming yourself up, being smart during the run, know when to throw in the towel if you have to for that run, not for the whole marathon, cooling down, stretching, sleeping, eating. That's the best thing you can do for yourself for the next 6 weeks, really.
Run happy is my favorite piece of advice.
You have to.
Always.
It's painful. Running never gets easy, right? So you have to make it happy. You've got to smile through it because no matter how long we do it, it's still a trudge.
And there will be, most of New York City will be cheering you on. That's the great thing, and you're running with 50,000 and other individuals from across the world. Quite exciting. Brent, and also, can you touch a little bit on if folks are running, they're on the course, and they're starting to feel like, I know you touched a little bit on this before, but they're starting to feel like they got injured. What should they really do on the course?
Yeah, I mean, well, on the course itself, I mean, the first part of that is listen to your body, right? You might be able to tell what exactly is going on, but pre-study the course, know where the medical tents are just in case you need them. Very easy to see and find. There's a lot of people that'll help you. If you really start to have something happen, just, signal, pull over to the side. Keep moving, don't stop if you're able, at least keep walking. Usually the most common injury on race day is just muscle cramping. If it's a warm race, be ready for that. Electrolytes, electrolytes, electrolytes. I can't say it enough. I know there's the Gatorade Endurance available on the race. And a lot of us will go just for the water thinking that's okay, but no, then you throw off your electrolytes. So hit that Gatorade. If you're cramping, just pull over, keep walking, stretch if you need to, and get into the medical tent because there's a lot of things they can do for you there. They've got salt packets. Well, I think they usually have them. They've got salt packets in there that they can just throw in your mouth and off you go.
And there are medical professionals in the medical tent, so they can assist you if that is needed. And more information on the course and a strategy for the course that will be available online. And I think Coach Steve is ready with questions. He seems eager with those questions.
We do.
Let's try to get a question from the audience here first, because I promised them we would take their questions first. Do we have any questions from the audience here?
All right. Question right in back here. Here you go. Use the microphone.
What's your opinion about using compression sleeves and what they call the patella knee straps? What are your thoughts about using those while you run?
I think, let me repeat what I think I heard. Opinion on compression sleeves, especially the one with the patellar tendon aspect. Here's the thing with anything in this kind of arena type of question. It's a great question, first of all. It's different for every person, right? So people can use it either sometimes to help keep their blood flow going. So if you're somebody that the blood tends to pull down, people will use compression sleeves to increase that pressure to keep the blood flowing. For some people, they'll wear it because they think it helps reduce the vibration in the muscle to help decrease the fatiguing. For somebody who's got knee patellar tendon pain, they wear that component. What I think, the easiest way to answer that is, as Gemma said earlier, if that's something you're interested in, you want to start practicing with it earlier rather than later. That's not something that you throw on the day of the race and go, oh, this is going to save me. You start it now, you wear it for your long runs, see if it helps you any. If it does, wear it, right? We all have our things that we do on race day that we think helps us, but the biggest advice is just start using it and see if it gives you any of those benefits that you're looking for. Are you currently having patellar tendon discomfort? Preventive? Yeah, and there again, if you start talking about preventive, I mean, I'm one of those that tends not to add things on uselessly, right? It's something like that. If you're not having any issues, preventive for me is more get your sleep, eat right, trust your plan. That's the best preventive you can do. I don't know. What do you think, Gemma, about compression sleeves? Any thoughts? Yeah.
I was going to say nothing new on race day.
Yeah.
Especially compression sleeves.
Can I ask a quick question of the experts here? Sneakers. So, like, when should you think about wearing those if we're talking about injury prevention?
Oh, yeah, sure. In the sense of, like, whatever you're going to choose to wear on the race day?
Yeah, or if, like, you have a pair that you really like, when should you start to, like, would you want to wear brand new sneakers on race day?
Never.
So when would you want to maybe
do a couple long
in?
runs in whatever sneakers you're going to wear. You don't want to just go into something new. You could definitely not finish the race that way. General rule of 400 miles in your sneakers. So I just kind of always have a fresh pair ready to go. So when I hit that mileage, I'll just throw them on. I usually have 2 in rotation. But yeah, I'll do at least 2 of my long runs in the sneakers. Get good 40, 60 miles on my sneaks, and then good to go.
And it's a great idea to get fitted for your sneakers, right? So we do have a New Balance hub right up here. That can be helpful for you as well. Or you can go to another sneaker store and they can fit you for those sneakers as well. I think we have another question from the audience.
So I'm going to be away the week, like 3 weeks before, like the 6th to the 14th. I'm going to be overseas, and I don't want to have to do like a long run while I'm there. And I don't want to spend like millions of hours on my feet because I have plantar fasciitis. So is it okay if I take it easy and do like a couple light runs and then build around it? Because right around the time I get back, I figure I'm going to have to start to taper. So I probably need one more long run, right? If I'm back on the 14th.
Without seeing your plan, like I can't give you a 100% answer, but yeah, you can shift your long run to possibly before. Not if it's like Friday's one long run and then you're like, I'm going to go back out Saturday. No, but like you can kind of shift things around. Talk to your coach or talk to who you're working with for this and get that planned out if you can't do it when you're away. Yeah.
And think about a lot of us are the same, right? We want to see those numbers. We want to complete every workout or else we can't do the marathon, right? So you don't want to push that long run too close to where you don't have that taper period. Because if you don't have those 2 to 3 weeks off, you're not going to get those fresh legs that we were talking about earlier, right? You really need that time. I'm the type that I need to see that 2-0 on my watch once, and then I'm like, bam, I've got this. Just once. Well, for my training plan. Yeah. Never, like my normal training plan is like a 14, 17, 20, and I'm done. But that's just mine, right? For some people who've been running longer, I know some people that are banging out 23 every week, but they're like pro runners, right? That's not me. You've got to give yourself time to recover there. I mean, like for Berlin last year, I had the joy of catching COVID at the start of my 16-week training. So I lost my first 6 weeks and had to cram in 10 weeks. So Berlin was rough for me. Finished, but I didn't train the way I wanted. So that's most important for you to think about. You can keep running while you're there, and if you maybe miss one long run, I'd rather you get to the start line, fresh legs, healthy, happy. Do it.
Fresh legs. That's what we're taking from this. We have a question right there behind you, Coach Steve.
Hi, a friend of mine ran the New York Marathon last year, and he recommended to me that I should start kind of figuring out how I might want to use like the goos or like the energy gels or whatever like that. I know a lot of them have caffeine in them. How does that work with the idea that you want to reduce the amount of caffeine to get better sleep? And how does that work, or is it negligible? I also don't want my heart to explode, so I don't want too much.
We also don't want your heart to explode.
Yeah, that would not be a
No.
good thing on the course. The caffeine, they all have varying amounts in them, so you really do want to kind of try it out. And you also don't want to feel like you're racing. Like some people, I know for myself, I'm a sleep doctor and I love my morning coffee. Like I need it. And I have sometimes I'll have 1 or 2 goos that have caffeine in it, and that's totally fine. But I sometimes will like kind of mix it up a little bit. I'll have one with, one without, just because I know for me it can make me race a little bit more. I mean, my heart race a little bit more. But for other people, like it really does vary. The thing you need to think about is, are you doing most of your long runs where you would need them? Are you doing them earlier in the day? So if you're doing them earlier in the day, I wouldn't worry too much about how it's going to impact your sleep at night. Sometimes, like I was saying, sometimes those long runs, you'll be tired, but your legs are just going to be on fire anyways, that your sleep isn't going to necessarily always be great that night anyways. So don't trial it out now. Have a few with caffeine, but it's not going to be like you're having huge cups of coffee every time.
I'm just going to add on to that. If you plan on using the gels that we have on the course, the SIS, I would try them before. Whatever you have on race day, you should be using these gels on your long runs now. If they're not going to work now, they're not going to work on race day. Okay, it's going to be the same thing. So you can get them from, sport shops. You can buy them online, but I would try them out. And as you said, I alternate. I'd have a regular one and then a caffeinated one. You can see which ones have caffeine on them, they say. So I'd have a look and try it first.
Well,
So
and then
sorry,
go.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'll play it the other side then. I don't use caffeine. So you don't have to use caffeine. Some people will do like 1 or 2 at the start because they're coffee drinkers and they don't want to go into caffeine withdrawal during the race if you're not getting your morning caffeine. But just for anybody that's here, you don't have to use caffeine for the race.
But unless things have changed too, they do have coffee at the start, right? So in the Expo Village, you can get coffee there, so you can also experiment. Maybe you don't want to use the caffeinated gels, but maybe you like having coffee before you go and start running. So maybe experiment with that a little bit too and see how it affects your GI tract and your energy levels and your heart rate and all that stuff.
And 6 weeks out, I was just going to say 6 weeks out, you still have time for trial and error, right? So we're going to take a question. Just hold on a second. We're going to take a question from the live audience.
We have a lot of chatter online. We have a question that says, for runners who have been training on mostly flat courses, what is the most important thing to do at this point to help minimize risk of injury on marathon day?
Well, number one, if you're only training on a flat course, you're going to have a great time at the TCS New York City Marathon. If you can start hill training, please, 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 don't go crazy, but start hill training because you have 5 booger bridges to get across. That would be the best thing I would say to help reduce injury. You're not going to injure yourself running up a bridge when you're here at the marathon, but you're gonna tank yourself. So if you don't get any hill training in, just be ready to match your perceived effort on the bridge as the same when you're running flat. So you're going to have to run potentially slower, reduce your stride, maybe walk. That's okay.
Okay. And I apologize. All of you are actually part of the live audience. I meant the online audience. Do we have another question?
We'll do one more online, then come back to live. Question probably for Brent, I believe. Is it okay to take ibuprofen the day before the marathon or day of the marathon to help battle muscle inflammation?
I would never take it day of. No, it's not good on your system. We're already taxing our system. You don't even get Tylenol in the medical tent. Ibuprofen. Tylenol's available. So I wouldn't, inflammation, if that's something you normally do, but I wouldn't proactively do it. You also don't want to be on pain meds when you're running a marathon because then you might not receive the signals from your body that you're causing yourself pain and you might cause yourself more injuries. So my answer would be don't do it. Find alternatives, arnica, anything like that to maybe help it down.
Thanks, Brent.
Hi, question about nutrition. What do you recommend eating the night before and the morning of the race?
I would recommend eating what you've been eating for the last 6-8 weeks. So if you're having pizza the night before, you're going to have pizza the night before. If you've been having a bagel for breakfast, have that. Again, it's about practicing all of these long runs that you have done and are doing. It's your dress rehearsal. So do what works for you. Don't go changing that because someone else said that they have rice. Like you might have what you like and have what you're used to. Maybe increase that carb a little bit the week of as well.
Okay, I think we had one more hand up here. Was that yours? He's bringing the mic.
Just have a dumb question. On that day, the marathon, right? Do we wear the short or the long pant? Because we don't know the weather. It's cold or hot.
We also don't know if it'll be cold or hot.
So
we just got to pray about it. What are your recommendations on attire?
All of the above. Expect it to be cold. Go to the thrift store. I always get myself a hoodie, some pants that are open at the bottom because you don't have to take your shoes off. So cut it or just make sure it doesn't have a elastic. One of the hard things about this marathon is you're in Staten Island for a long time waiting, right? So have layers. There's nice donation bins right before you line up on the bridge. So you throw it off and go. You know, and then that's just the base to keep you warm. Whatever you're gonna wear to run, it's like Gemma said, just make sure you've practiced in it. I mean, it can be cooler, but we haven't had much opportunity to practice your warm running clothes. So just only pick things that you've run in before, especially long runs.
I think that's a really good point, and adding on to that, if you plan on getting like a special race day outfit, buy that special race day outfit now and start wearing that for race day, even though it's your race day outfit. Wear it now.
And for those folks who might be concerned about the clothing that gets discarded, it's actually donated. Due to the nature of the sport, a lot of articles of clothing are taken off and thrown off, and we do donate. We do collect and donate all those articles of clothing. Go right ahead.
So if we want to keep on running, so right now I'm planning my next one, and this is not even yet, and I'm planning for that spring. So I just want to keep myself without injuries, and I am a 50, almost 50, and I want to know if I should do less days of running. Right now, I'm doing like 4, maybe sometimes 5, but I feel like I should cut it to 3 if I want to keep on running, because there's going to be a point, right, that legs are going to say. So do you feel like after a certain age you have to just cut the amount?
No. I mean, go out there and watch the marathon. You're going to see people 70s, 80s, 90s going by. No, I don't think so. I mean, you know, I think 3 to 4 max in a day, because the minute you're running 5 days a week, you're not getting rest days in between every run. So I never want you technically running 2 days in a row. I mean, we all do it. It's part of my training plan. But I think you listen to your body. If you keep up your strength training, you keep your body nice and balanced, you keep it elongated with the stretching, you can run, hopefully, indefinitely. So there's nothing about this whole age equals you have to start running. And studies nowadays are showing running doesn't hurt our joints. Like I always joke, I'm one step closer to my hip replacement, right? I'm gonna use this metal, melt it down, and that's gonna be a metal replacement. Studies don't really show that, because as runners, if we're training properly and we're strength training, our joints, our bodies are healthy. So it's not increasing our risk per se for joint replacements, joint injuries down the road. So no, keep going. The worst thing you could do is to stop doing, because then as we stop doing, that's when it's harder to.
Thank you, Brent. And I think we have a question online.
Yes, the question for Shelby. You mentioned a lot of apps, but there are many sleep apps out there. The question is, are they accurate? How should we use them? When should we use them? Talk about kind of those famous sleep apps that we see out there.
So there's a gazillion out there. Gazillion. I think, you know, and it's hard to say one over another right now. I think the way you need to think about, the apps are also a little bit different versus like a ring or a watch. The way you need to think about them is some are better than others, and the ones that tend to be better still aren't fully accurate when it comes to telling what stage of sleep you're in. So they're getting better, don't get me wrong, they're definitely getting better. But I think people get very obsessed with, it says I'm not getting enough REM sleep, it says I'm not getting enough deep sleep. I think, like I said earlier, the more you worry about it, the more you're gonna lose sleep over it, and it's just not gonna help you either. So they're much better for, I think, the people who don't tend to obsess about their sleep or have insomnia. We find that the apps are actually worse for people. If you have any insomnia, stay away from them, because they'll just make you worry about it more. But if you're someone who's just like, okay, am I getting consistent sleep? Am I getting enough sleep? Am I awake a lot in the middle of the night? The apps are generally pretty good for that sort of stuff with the total sleep time. But like I said, the sleep staging, what stages of sleep you're in, kind of take that a little bit with a grain of salt right now.
Thank you. And Coach Steve,
So
online?
we have about 2 questions that are very similar. I think Gemma made the first part for you, and then we could bounce over to Brent. If you take a few days off, a few days or a few weeks off from training, how do you get back into your training schedule? Do you start off where you should have been? Do you take some time off or step back in your training? So if you take a week or 2 off, how do you get back into your training plan?
Yeah, if you've missed like one of your big runs, don't go straight back into that. Kind of take it easy and work your way back into that. It's not saying go back to the beginning, but just go into it nice and conservatively. You're not wanting to jump straight back, or if you're missing a run, you're not wanting to redo that in a few days bigger. And it also depends why you've taken it off. If it's for travel or if it's for injury, there's loads of different ways, I guess. I'm going to pass that to you for injury.
Well, let's quantify it. So the general rule would be 10% increase every week. So, the first part said a couple days. If it's just been a couple days, it's fine. You can basically go back to what you were doing. But do your math, see what your cumulative miles are every week. And so for this individual, depending on how many weeks they've skipped, whatever that last full week was per se, it's kind of only a 10% increase each week leading up to that, which could then freak you out when you do the math, because then you're like, I'm never going to make it to those long runs. But again, it's better to get to the start line healthy with fewer miles.
Yes, health is most important. Any more questions from the audience here?
So we're 6 weeks out, right?
Yeah.
How close would you stop and do your 20, your 2-0? Like 2 weeks before the marathon? 1 week?
Yeah, it depends on your taper. So some of us will do a 2-week taper. Most people will do a 3-week taper. So you're going to be looking at, I believe it's the week of like August 14th. I think that will be like not August 14th, October. I'm living in the past. I'm going back to the future. So you will be, that weekend will be your highest peak week. And
I think, was this your first marathon? A 3-week taper would probably be good. Give yourself time to get those fresh legs again, right? Once you start getting up there, you could do less. But yeah, I'm doing a 3-week taper right now.
You just got to walk around and tell everybody you have fresh legs. Yeah. Non-runners, you got to tell them that. Coach Steve.
When you're training, or I guess even on the race itself, what sensations or what warning signals should you listen to your body for to like know that you should stop, and which should you push through? Like, if I get a cramp, should I keep on trying to work through it, or if my like joints feel funny versus like any kind of like, I don't know, how do I listen to my body?
That question could not be broader. I love it. No, it's great. It's great. It's great. So let's go back to that pain definition. So any sensation that either stays there or gets worse, that's pain, or anything that alters your gait, because you are going to have many sensations. You're probably already experiencing them now in your long runs. So it's those feelings that change your gait, right? That change how you're running. Those are the ones you need to be aware of. A cramp, most of us are going to be aware that's a cramp, right? You can apply pressure on it, you feel it, that's your cue. I need some electrolytes potentially, or I've trained too aggressively. If you think about that, like, is it affecting how I'm running? Is it getting better or worse? I mean, that's really the best way I can describe it, because it's really about you understanding your body and knowing what that means. And this is your first marathon as well, right? So it's your first time doing these massive trainings, and if you join us in the crazy cult of marathon running, the more you do these, the more you're going to go, oh, it's that again. It's fine. Yeah, it's stressful. It's stressful.
But in general, it would be better to err on the side of caution, right?
Always err on the side of caution. Okay. Yeah, the minute your gait changes, slow down or stop. It's not worth it to push through.
Okay, great. And I think we have one last question from the audience online.
We got a lot of questions online.
We have many
but we're picking
questions.
the hot topics. We'll go live after this one. So we got 2 questions about blisters. So how do you prevent blisters if you had not had them? How do you get rid of them if you have blisters? Is it a shoe? Is it socks? There's a big debate online, so we want to hear what you guys say.
The expression on Brent's face, I think, says everything.
Well, because I don't even want to talk about it, because I've never actually, have I? No, I've never really gotten a blister from running, and I don't want it to happen. Here's why. I do not, infinity, ever wear cotton. Everything is synthetic. If you want to get a blister, wear cotton. You need to have a shoe that's got enough room, right? So usually for your runners, it's one size larger, so you've got lots of room up here for your toes to move around. That's the 2 biggest things for me.
I would say as well, get really good socks, get sport socks. You can use Vaseline, you can try that. You can get some really good blister plasters if you do get them. I have unfortunately had blisters, and they're not very nice at all, to say the least. So preventing them, you can use Vaseline, Body Glide. I've heard people use talcum powder or baby powder. I'm not sure what you call it. Stuff like that. But getting really good socks, really good shoes, getting that fitted, that's important.
Okay, I think we're going to try to get through a couple of questions, right, Coach Steve? Any questions from the audience here? No, I think we have one in the back.
Just on race day when you're running, how do you figure out whether you're eating and drinking enough? Like how do you kind of monitor that, or how do you figure that out?
That's a good question. Have a look on the packet. So every pack that you have, if it's SIS or what brand it is, will have like a rough guide. So it will say like a time, like have this every 20 minutes. SIS, I believe, is around that. Some 45 minutes, and time it of that. You want to have it before you need it as well. You don't want to be running and then getting halfway through and being like, oh, I haven't had it yet. So have a plan and practice with that plan. So if your long runs, if it's every 45 minutes, you're wanting to have it for sure before the first hour when that glycogen's wearing off. So having it then and then kind of thinking, okay, 20 minutes from now or 40 minutes from now, I'm going to have this. And then I'm going to have a sip of Gatorade at this point. So kind of have that plan. That's one of the things that you can control on race day. So you want to have that planned.
Okay, thank you. And I think we have possibly the last question from online.
Yeah, last question right now. Question is, should I take a few days of rest if I have shin splints? Currently having massages and dry needles as well.
Yeah, I mean, shin splints would be an injury. It's an overuse injury. Shin splints is definitely not one you can push through. So again, that's somebody that might need to really pull back on the mileage, hopefully get that inflammation under control, and hopefully they can walk up to the start line having not completed all their miles, but healthy and be able to push through. So yes, please take some days off.
And we hope you feel better soon. Folks, thank you so much for joining us in person here, online, as well as those who will be watching this recording at a later time. I want to thank all of our experts, Brent, Dr. Shelby, Coach Gemma, Coach Steve, who has been helping us with the Q&A, but also helped put this event together, AJ, who's making sure these live streams are working well, our Run Center staff, who provided us this space and helped us set up, and also want to thank all of you again for coming. Those of you who are running your marathon for the first time, wish you the very best of luck. I hope you'll join us for the 4th and 5th panels, the last two in this training series. They will be on October 12th and October 19th. You can join us in person here, or you can watch the recordings or join the live streams. Again, thank you so very much and have a great evening.